Welcome back to my channel, Pocket Change Coins. If you're excited about finding hidden gems in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we're going to uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. We're diving into one of the most fascinating coins from the 1960s, the 1967 United States dime. Now, I know what you're thinking, it's just a dime, right? Well, you might want to think again, because this seemingly simple coin is much more valuable than you'd expect. By the end of this video, you'll be looking at your change differently, and who knows, you might even have a rare treasure in your pocket. Let's first take a trip back to 1967. This was a transformative year in American history, marked by significant events like the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, and the exciting space race. In the world of coins, it was just another year in the long history of circulating currency, but it also marked the end of an era for certain coins. The 1967 dime is particularly interesting because it represents the final years of the pre-1965 silver coins, which were made with 90% silver. In 1965, the U.S. Mint switched to a clad composition, which was primarily copper and nickel, so the 1967 dime has a historical significance that adds to its charm. But let's talk about why this specific coin is such a hot commodity in the world of coin collecting. The United States dime has been around since 1796, and the design we're familiar with today, featuring Franklin D. Roosevelt, was introduced in 1946. This iconic design, created by artist John R. Sinek, was meant to honor the late president after his passing in 1945. Fast forward to 1967, and you've got a coin that, at first glance, might seem like just another dime, but there's so much more going on underneath the surface. The 1967 dime is incredibly popular among collectors, especially for those who are searching for silver coins. The key difference between this coin and the dimes minted after 1965 is the silver content. The 1967 dime still contains 90% silver, and for many collectors, that's what makes it so appealing. While the majority of coins in circulation today are made of copper and nickel, finding one with that much silver content is like discovering a little piece of history. That silver content alone can significantly raise the value of this dime. However, it's not just about the metal. When we talk about coin value, we also need to consider condition and rarity. The 1967 dime wasn't produced in a low quantity. Millions of these coins were minted in both Philadelphia and Denver. So, finding one in average condition is not as uncommon as you might think. However, finding a 1967 dime in pristine, uncirculated condition is much rarer and far more valuable. A coin that's been well preserved over the years, free from scratches or discoloration, will fetch a much higher price than a coin that's been worn down from years of circulation. But let's take it a step further. Minting errors are another factor that can make a 1967 dime a collector's dream. If you come across a 1967 dime that has any minting errors, such as a double die, off-center strike, or even die cracks, you could be holding onto a coin that's worth far more than just 10 cents. Mint errors are highly prized by collectors because they are unique. A coin with an error is a one-of-a-kind item, making it an attractive addition to any collection. For example, a 1967 dime with a double die error, where part of the design appears to be duplicated, could be worth thousands of dollars more than a standard coin in perfect condition. Now, let's talk about the market value of the 1967 dime. While the majority of these dimes can be found for just a few dollars, those that are in exceptional condition, especially with minting errors, can fetch a much higher price. The most valuable 1967 dimes, particularly those in mint state or with unique errors, can be worth a staggering $300,000. Yes, you heard that right, $300,000 for a single 1967 dime. It might seem unbelievable, but in the world of rare coins, this is entirely possible. The rarity, silver content, and potential for minting errors make this coin a highly sought-after prize among collectors. If you happen to have a 1967 dime in your collection, it might just be time to take a closer look. You could be sitting on a valuable treasure that's far more than just pocket change. So, the next time you're flipping through a pile of change, remember that the 1967 dime isn't just any ordinary coin. Whether you're collecting for the silver, the history, or the potential for minting errors, this coin has the power to surprise you. Who knows? You might just have a rare find on your hands. Second rare coin, we're taking a trip back in time to the late 19th century to uncover the mystery and magic of one of America's most famous coins, the 1894 United States $1 dime. Yes, that's right. A dime. Just 10 cents. But not just any 10-cent piece. This is a coin with a story so rare, so mysterious, and so valuable that it has captured the imagination of collectors for well over a century. Stick with us, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why the 1894 dime is one of the most coveted coins in American history. So, let's rewind the clock to the year 1894. It was a time of rapid change in the United States. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing, cities were expanding, and the U.S. Mint was busy striking coins to meet the growing demands of commerce and trade. But something very unusual happened at the San Francisco Mint that year, something that turned an ordinary coin into a legendary rarity. In 1894, the San Francisco Mint reportedly struck only 24 dimes. That's right, just 24 coins were ever made. Why? That's part of what makes this story so intriguing. Some theories suggest that they were created for VIPs and high-level officials. Others believe it was a bookkeeping adjustment or a trial run that was never meant to enter public circulation. Whatever the reason, those 24 dimes instantly became some of the rarest coins ever minted in the United States. Now here's where things get really interesting. Out of the original 24 dimes struck, only a small number have ever been found. Some were believed to have been given as gifts. One story even tells of a mint superintendent who gave 3 of the dimes to his daughter, telling her to hold on to them because they'd be valuable one day. According to legend, she spent one on ice cream. Just imagine that. As time went on, many of the original 24 coins vanished. Some were lost. Others were melted down. And now, over a century later, fewer than 10 are known to still exist. That kind of scarcity drives collectors wild. When a coin is that rare, especially with such a fascinating backstory, it becomes the ultimate prize, a holy grail in the world of numismatics. But let's talk design for a moment, because the 1894 dime is also a beautiful piece of American coinage. It features the Barber Dime design, named after its designer, Charles E. Barber. On the obverse side is the classic profile of Lady Liberty, wearing a laurel wreath and facing right. It's simple, elegant, and very much of its time. On the reverse, you'll find a wreath encircling the words, "1 dime." There's no flashy imagery here, just a refined, understated design that reflects the artistry of a bygone era. Now imagine holding one of these in your hand. You're not just holding a dime, you're holding a piece of lost American history, a relic of a forgotten moment that has somehow survived the test of time. And because so few exist, every surviving 1894 dime is like a time capsule. Each one has its own story, its own journey, its own fingerprint of history. But here's what makes this story even more thrilling. Some of these dimes have actually shown up in pocket change collections, estate sales, or old coin jars. There are stories of people unknowingly sitting on fortunes, thinking they just had an old dime. That's why collectors across the world constantly remind people, check your change. You never know when a rare coin like this could surface. Of course, not every 1894 dime is in perfect condition. Some are worn from years of handling. But even in lower grades, they can fetch enormous amounts of money. The true treasures are those that have been preserved in near mint or uncirculated condition. These are the dimes that turn heads at auctions and leave collectors speechless. So now, the question you've been waiting for, just how much can an 1894 United States dime be worth? Well, if you're lucky enough to find one, especially one in excellent condition, it could be valued at a jaw-dropping $200,000, yes, you heard that right, $200,000 for a single dime. That's the kind of return that turns dreams into reality. And it's all because of a mysterious decision made over a century ago, a forgotten batch of 24 coins, and the enduring fascination with the rare and the unknown. So if you've got an old coin collection tucked away somewhere, or if you inherit one from a relative, don't overlook the small stuff. That one little dime could be your ticket to a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Third expensive coin is the 1975 United States 1 dime. Yes, you heard that right, a 10-cent piece from 1975. It's a coin millions of Americans used in vending machines, pocket change, and soda machines. But here's where things take a fascinating turn. While the 1975 Roosevelt dime might seem incredibly common, there's a version of this coin that is so rare, so astonishingly scarce, that it has become a legend in the world of numismatics. Let's start by talking about the coin's design. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who led the United States through the Great Depression and most of World War II. The obverse side of the dime features a profile of Roosevelt, while the reverse shows a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. By 1975, the design hadn't changed much, but what did change that year made all the difference. Here's where things get really interesting. In 1975, the United States Mint was already preparing for the nation's bicentennial celebration in 1976. That meant that all quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins dated for 1975 and 1976 were given a special dual date, 1776 to 1976. But the dime? It stayed with a standard single-year date, 1975. Now, you might be thinking, that's not that special. But wait, there's a mystery that surrounds this coin that has puzzled collectors for decades. In 1975, the U.S. Mint did not produce any dimes with an S mint mark for circulation. The S mint mark represents the San Francisco Mint, which typically only struck coins for proof sets. But in a shocking twist, two 1975 Roosevelt dimes have surfaced with the S mint mark, and without the expected proof coin characteristics. That's right. These two coins weren't supposed to exist. They somehow slipped past the mint's quality control and found their way into the public, creating one of the rarest modern-era minting anomalies ever recorded, known as the 1975 No-S Roosevelt dime. This variety is not just rare, it's one of a kind in every sense. These coins were supposed to have an S for proof coins from San Francisco, but due to a production error, that mint mark was missing. The result? A dime that became the stuff of legends. But what does this have to do with the 1975 dime you might have in your own home? Well, while the rare No-S dime is the big star, it's important to realize that 1975 dimes from all mints, especially those in uncirculated or mint state condition, are highly collectible. If you've got a 1975 dime that's perfectly preserved, never been circulated, and has a sharp strike, it could already be worth significantly more than face value. Add in a unique feature or error, like a misstrike, die clash, off-center strike, or doubling, and you might be looking at a dime worth hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars. The condition of the coin plays a huge role in determining value. A 1975 dime graded as MS 65 or higher by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC is considered highly desirable. And if there's a mint error on top of that, its value skyrockets. You might be surprised to know that many of these coins were never carefully examined by their owners, often thrown in jars or drawers and forgotten for decades. Imagine this: you're sorting through an old piggy bank or a box of coins you inherited from a grandparent. You find a 1975 dime that looks sharper than the rest. You check it under a magnifying glass and realize something's different. Maybe there's no mint mark, or maybe the strike looks unusual. That small detail could be the key to unlocking a treasure worth far more than you ever imagined. So now comes the million-dollar question, or should we say, the six-figure question: just how much can a rare 1975 Roosevelt dime be worth? Well, while most 1975 dimes in worn condition might only be worth a little over face value to collectors, those with rare mint errors, particularly the no-mint mark varieties in pristine condition, have sold for jaw-dropping sums. And if you're holding a 1975 dime with exceptional qualities or one of those ultra-rare minting anomalies, it could be worth as much as $140,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $140,000 for a single dime. A coin that people barely look at twice. That's the beauty and mystery of coin collecting. The rarest and most valuable finds often come in the most ordinary disguises. So, the next time you reach into your pocket or check the change from the grocery store, take a second look at that dime. You never know, it could be the one that rewrites your story. Especially, we're turning our attention to a tiny piece of metal that almost everyone has held at some point but few realize could hold surprising value, the 1980 United States $1 coin with the P mint mark. That's right, we're talking about the Roosevelt dime, a coin so common that most people wouldn't look twice. But stick with me, because there's a fascinating history, hidden errors, and collector secrets behind this little dime that just might have you digging through your coin jars by the end of the video. Let's begin by setting the stage. The year is 1980. America is experiencing a new wave of change. Ronald Reagan is about to become president, the Cold War is still going strong, and inflation is on everyone's mind. The U.S. Mint is churning out coins at a massive scale to meet the demands of an expanding economy. In Philadelphia, the Mint produced millions of dimes that year. But here's where things get interesting. 1980 was the very first year that Philadelphia used a mint mark, P, on the dime. Before this, Philadelphia coins typically didn't carry a mint mark at all. But in 1980, for the first time ever, the U.S. Mint decided to place a P on the Roosevelt dime, right above the date. This seemingly small decision became a turning point in the history of U.S. coinage, especially for collectors who now had a new detail to pay attention to. Now you might be asking, how can a coin that was produced in the hundreds of millions be rare? Great question. While it's true that the 1980 P dime is extremely common in circulation, the value isn't just in the year or the mint mark alone. It's in the details. Coin collectors are constantly looking for coins with specific characteristics, high-grade condition, rare mint errors, and limited varieties that set them apart from the rest. And the 1980 P dime checks all those boxes in some surprising ways. Let's talk condition first. Most 1980 dimes have been through decades of wear and tear. They've been in pockets, vending machines, parking meters, you name it. But a small number of these coins were carefully set aside or accidentally preserved in pristine condition. These are known as mint state or uncirculated coins, and they have sharply defined details, smooth fields, and zero signs of wear. A 1980 P dime graded MS 67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC becomes a serious item of interest for collectors, but condition alone isn't the only factor. What really makes some 1980 dimes leap in value are mint errors, those rare accidents during the coin production process that result in unique, often one-of-a-kind coins. Examples of mint errors that increase value include off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and missing layers. These are coins that slipped past the mint's quality control, and because they are so rare, collectors are willing to pay big money to own them. Now picture this. A 1980 P Roosevelt dime with a sharp strike, no visible damage, and a spectacular mint error, like a strong double die on the obverse, where Roosevelt's face and the inscriptions are visibly doubled. That coin is no longer just pocket change. That's a collector's dream. Even more fascinating. Many of these valuable error coins aren't sitting in museums or behind glass cases. They're in people's homes, tucked into drawers, hidden in old coin jars, or forgotten inside piggy banks. There's a very real chance that you or someone you know might have one of these rare coins without even realizing it. That's what makes hunting for valuable coins so exciting, because the next big find could come from your very own change. It's not just about the thrill of the hunt, it's about preserving pieces of history. Each coin tells a story, of when it was made, how it was used, and how it survived all these years. The 1980 P dime, in particular, represents a shift in American coinage and is a must-have for anyone serious about building a complete Roosevelt dime collection. Now, let's get to the part you've been waiting for, the potential value. While most 1980 P dimes are worth face value, a select few have sold for jaw-dropping amounts due to their condition and rarity. One such coin, with a remarkable mint error and preserved in near-perfect condition, stunned the numismatic world when it reached an incredible price of $99,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $99,000 for a coin you'd normally use to pay for parking or a candy bar. That's the magic of coin collecting. A tiny, everyday object can turn out to be an extraordinary treasure, hiding in plain sight. So what should you do? Start by checking your change. Pull out those old coin folders and jars from your childhood. Look closely at every 1980 dime you find. Use a magnifying glass to inspect the mint mark, check for unusual markings, or anything that seems slightly off. It might be worth having your coin appraised or professionally graded. You never know what you might have on your hands. Next coin, we're diving into the fascinating story of a dime. Not just any dime, though. This one's from the year 1991, minted in Philadelphia, and yes, it could be worth far, far more than 10 cents. Now before you shrug this off, let me ask you something. When was the last time you really looked at your coins? Not just glanced at them, but looked closely, at the date, the mint mark, the condition? Because believe it or not, what looks like an ordinary Roosevelt dime could actually be a rare collectible hiding in plain sight. Let's set the scene. The year is 1991. The world is changing fast. The internet is just starting to make its way into homes, grunge music is on the rise, and the Gulf War is making headlines. But in the midst of all that, the US Mint is quietly producing coins for everyday use, millions upon millions of dimes, nickels, and quarters. And from the Philadelphia Mint, the 1991 dime rolls off the presses in huge numbers, destined for vending machines, piggy banks, grocery store change, and car ashtrays. So how does a coin like this, mass-produced in the tens of millions, end up being worth a small fortune? The answer is simple. It's not just about the year or the mint mark, it's about the details. First, let's talk about the design. The 1991 Roosevelt dime carries the same iconic image we've seen since 1946, a left-facing profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the man who led America through the Great Depression and most of World War II. On the reverse, there's the torch, symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch for peace and an oak branch for strength. It's a clean, patriotic design that stood the test of time, but here's what really makes the 1991 dime stand out: certain rare varieties and errors that occurred during the minting process. While most of the 1991 P dimes look identical, a small handful left the mint with flaws, and those flaws are pure gold to collectors. We're talking about minting errors like off-center strikes, double dies, missing clad layers, and full band varieties, where the horizontal bands on the torch are fully visible and well-defined, indicating a sharp and perfect strike. These rare errors and high-quality examples turn a regular dime into a treasure worth hunting for. And here's something most people don't realize: coins minted in Philadelphia prior to 1980 had no mint mark, but starting in 1980, Philadelphia coins started bearing the letter P. If you've got a 1991 dime, you'll see that P right above the date on the obverse side. But what if it's missing? A 1991 dime without a mint mark is almost unheard of, and that could be a major error coin worth serious cash. Condition plays another huge role. A 1991 P dime that has never been circulated, never touched by human hands without gloves, and preserved in a flawless state, could earn a high grade from a professional grading service. Coins graded MS-67, MS-68, or higher are considered top tier, and collectors will pay a premium for them. Add a rare error into the mix, and you've got something truly exceptional. The most exciting part? These coins aren't locked away in museums or vaults. They're out there. In circulation. In drawers, jars, collections, and coin rolls waiting to be found by someone who knows what to look for. That someone could be you. So if you come across a 1991 dime with a sharp strike, no visible damage, or unusual features, don't spend it. Examine it. Compare it. Maybe even send it in for grading. You could be holding something far more valuable than it seems. Now, let's get to the question you've all been waiting for: how much could a rare and pristine 1991 P Roosevelt dime be worth? Well, if it checks all the boxes, perfect condition, rare error, and high demand among collectors, then that little 10-cent coin could fetch as much as $70,000. Yes, you heard me right. $70,000. That's the kind of money that turns a humble dime into a life-changing discovery. So next time you get change at the grocery store or go digging through your old coin jar, take a closer look. You never know, you might just find your own piece of hidden treasure. Last unique coin, we're diving into the fascinating tale of a tiny coin you've probably overlooked 100 times before, the 2005 Roosevelt dime from the Philadelphia Mint, marked with a P. Now, don't let its everyday appearance fool you. That small, silver-colored dime might not seem like much at first glance. After all, it's just 10 cents, right? But the truth is, under the right circumstances, this little coin could be worth a whole lot more than you think. In fact, by the end of this video, you'll find out how some collectors are shelling out big bucks, yes, big bucks, for the right 2005 P dime. Let's start with a little background. The Roosevelt dime has been in circulation since 1946, created to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a leader who helped steer the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. The design features his profile on the obverse and a torch with an olive branch and oak branch on the reverse, representing liberty, peace, and strength. It's a classic, patriotic image that Americans have carried in their pockets for decades. By 2005, the design hadn't changed, but what did change was the interest among collectors. The coin collecting community had become even more attuned to detail. They weren't just looking for old coins anymore, they were searching for modern rarities. That meant newer coins, like the 2005 dime, were suddenly under the microscope, and collectors started spotting fascinating features that made some of these coins incredibly desirable. So what exactly makes a 2005 P dime special? First off, condition matters. Most of these dimes have been tossed into pockets, dropped on floors, and scraped through vending machines. Finding one in perfect condition, known as mint state or MS, especially graded MS 67 or higher by a professional service like PCGS or NGC, is rare. These high-grade coins display sharp details, no signs of wear, and flawless surfaces. Even without any errors, a high-grade 2005 P dime can catch a collector's eye, but here's where things really get exciting. Some 2005 P dimes feature minting errors that turn them from ordinary to extraordinary. We're talking about things like double dies, where the design appears to be stamped twice. Or off-center strikes, where the coin is misaligned during minting. There are even clad layer missing errors, where part of the outer metal layer is absent, exposing the copper underneath. And then there are die cracks, cuds, and strike-through errors, all of which are rare but very real possibilities in coins that slip through quality control. Now imagine this. You pull a 2005 dime out of your change jar and notice something strange. Maybe Roosevelt's features look slightly doubled. Maybe the coin seems thinner than normal, or the edge isn't quite right. That could be the key to discovering a valuable error coin, something collectors are willing to pay big money for because it's one of a kind. Even among standard coins, the 2005 P dime has gained a certain status in the collecting world. Why? Because while millions were produced, only a small percentage remain in pristine condition, and even fewer have known errors. It's like trying to find a perfect rose in a field full of weeds, not impossible, but definitely special. And here's the kicker. These coins aren't hidden away in locked vaults or buried treasure chests. They're out there, circulating, sitting in old drawers, tucked away in coin jars, or lying forgotten in the cup holder of your car. And if you've got one, or if you happen to stumble upon one with all the right features, well, that tiny 10-cent coin might be your ticket to something amazing. So what's the potential value? While most 2005 P dimes are worth exactly what they say, 10 cents, there are rare cases, especially with specific errors or extremely high-grade examples, where these coins have fetched jaw-dropping prices. In fact, the right 2005 P Roosevelt dime, especially one with a rare error and in top-grade condition, has been valued as high as $30,000. That's right. $30,000. For a dime. So, the next time you're handed change at the store, or you're digging through an old piggy bank, don't overlook the little coins. Take a closer look, you never know what might be hiding right under your nose. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this video and want to keep learning about coins that could turn your pocket change into profit, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single discovery. Until next time, happy collecting, and remember, sometimes the smallest coins hold the biggest surprises.